Hello and good day everybody to this Leo archetype video. As always, I just want to bring this disclaimer up front that I'm talking about the general energetics of Leo, but if you are a Leo sun or a Leo ascendant, or you have a strong fifth house, or you have any other planet in Leo, this can apply to some degree. But we always need to look at the rest of the birth chart in the context, and then at yourself in this case as a soul that chose to incarnate into a particular lifetime. And so there's so much context that also flows into all of this. So I am sharing this because I am teaching myself actually by sharing about the archetypes and speaking about them. And also because I do think that it can help and that it can bring some clarity, because of course if you're a Leo sun or a Leo moon, this will apply to some degree. So I just also want to point out again, we're talking more about energetics and about ways that the soul expresses itself in this human life. And so if there's some Leo signature in our chart, then the energy that will come through can be one of the things that I'm going to speak about. And there's, by the way, always, even if you are not having any sign or planet, no planet in Leo, or you don't have a fifth house occupied, there can still be Leo energies coming through, because there are still transits happening throughout our lives. And so we can still be affected or even express ourselves through this energy from time to time. It's just not as much part of our blueprint as for a person that has a Leo signature in their birth chart. All right, that being said, we are talking about Leo. So I want to start with, from the evolutionary perspective, this kind of endpoint or evolutionary goal that the Leo archetype points to. And I personally really love that one, because in its purest or highest or like most evolved expression, let's put it that way, the Leo archetype becomes selflessly self-expressed. So there is an energy around Leo when this archetype is very like clear. It's almost like I often think of it as a child, and it does also correlate to a child art, to the child in us, or to child archetype. And I really love, if you think of a child that just accomplished something or that's excited about something, they will like take up the space and beam through the room, and they will be like, look at what I just did, look, mommy. And there is this innocence about it, this selflessness about it. It's not that, look what I can do, it's like, look. And so it's really beautiful in that sense, because it shines. Leo is also ruled by the sun, right? And if we kind of like, when I meditate on the sun, I was contemplating the sun at some point. I was really feeling this unapologetic shine that the sun represents. It's just shining, and it's not really competing. It's just shining. And this is where we maybe now can enter more into the shadow expression for a moment, for some time here. So, as I just mentioned, the Leo also correlates to the child. And by the way, also to pleasure and joy. So, when I have a person with some Leo signature in the chart, I actually often hear myself saying, all right, there's inner child work that wants to be done. Because if we are wounded, which we obviously are as a human being, there can be this experience of wanting to be seen in our uniqueness and specialness, and not being seen like that. So, for example, if somebody has a Chiron in Leo, this can be a wound. Like Chiron represents the wounded healer, right? So there is usually some kind of wound of having not been seen in one's like real self-expression. So it can either be that the person has been told you are not special or you're nothing, or it can be that the person has been pushed into some kind of expression in in order to seem special. In German we say the grass doesn't grow faster when you pull on it. So it can be that somebody who carries a Leo wound, and they had this experience that somebody tried to pull on them or on their, so to say, grass in order to make them grow into a certain way. So with the Leo archetype, we look at inner child healing, and there is this thing of learning to become our own cheerleader, learning to acknowledge ourselves for the uniqueness and specialness that we are. Yeah, and also like listening to this inner child self and making our child's dreams come true. Yeah. Like going about our life while listening to the needs of this inner child, of the needs for joy and the needs for play. And this is where another shadow can come in, because it is about pleasure and feeling joyful and feeling good, essentially. This archetype is one of the ones that's prone to addictive behavior, because if it cannot source the sense of good feeling, it will of course source it from drugs, other substances. Sex can also be one, like kind of a compulsive, obsessive sexual behavior with this archetype. Anything that kind of brings this pleasure. Let me think, there was something else I wanted to say. Yeah, so with this like learning to acknowledge our own specialness, and with specialness here I want to say, I was looking it up the other day. Specialness can be defined as bringing a trait that's unique. So it is uniqueness. And in that sense, we are all special because we all have something to contribute to this world. So if we do not practice this, like if we do not develop this inner child awareness with the Leo archetype, and I want to say it goes very deep, like inner child work goes very, very profound. It starts when we're in the womb, basically. So it's not just about what happened when we were 5, 6, 7 years old. It goes into deep unconscious memory as well. So if we do not learn to give to our inner child this sense of, wow, you're so precious, what can happen is that resentment builds with this Leo archetype expression. And so there can be like this kind of sarcasm, cynicism. The heart closes off. So Leo also really correlates to the heart. It's like shining our heart. And if we are hurt, we're closing it, and then we can put on some kind of mask, and we might be still kind of outgoing in some ways, but in some humans it's visible. There's like the closed offness of the heart. So this resentment can build, and this sense of if nobody sees what I'm doing, then fuck them all, or if nobody sees what I'm doing, then why should I be doing it? And this is one element as well where Leo gets to heal, like on some level, yes, learning to do it for themselves first and foremost, and trusting that the polarity point of Aquarius gets activated as more as we do this healing, and the self-expression eventually will or can get acknowledged by the collective or by the wider community. It is there to serve in that way, but we need to work it from the inside to the outside. Yes, and another thing that I find interesting with Leo is, so it's also important that we acknowledge that we need acknowledgement from ourselves as well as from others. Yes, like there is a desire to receive that from the outside, of course. And so, as I just said, it starts inside, and it generally starts with acknowledging that we need that acknowledgement. Because another shadow expression, what can occur with Leo, is like, I don't need anybody and I don't give a shit if anybody sees what I'm doing. But deep down, or just below that, it's actually a crazy longing to be really witnessed and seen for the love that they actually are. Big lovers, Leo people can be, because the heart is like big, it's full. It's full of, yeah, expression, full of love. And yeah, so that can be expressions of the Leo archetype. So yeah, selfless self-expression, innocent, full, unapologetic self-expression, the radiant child, basically. And this maybe sound like a little bit like, wow, out there. I also want to say, there's other elements of the birth chart that help us to also solidify or ground this all. So it's not all just rah. There's also ways to ground this. That's why I like to look at the rest of the birth chart to give a more rounded experience. Yeah. Okay. So if this was useful, or if you want to know more, of course, about your personal chart, I'm happy to give a reading. You can reach out, and I wish you a good day. Until next time.